Today's lesson, we are going to take a quick diversion from the CTEs and everything that we've been learning, and we're going to expand on some of the filters. In particular, we're going to focus on the keywords and, or, plus in, and see how they work as different filters. Being on track where we are with our outline, we've already completed CTE and subquery, get your reps in, and we're going to start part 2 with our quick diversion. And versus or. So and is a condition where all of the criteria must be met. In general, this returns less rows than an or, and the order does not matter. So I could say black and white and pink, or I could say pink and black and white. It doesn't really matter. In comparison with or, you might have a list of criteria, but only one condition needs to be met for anything to be returned. This returns more rows than an and statement, and again, when you're only using ors, the order does not matter. I can do black or white or pink. I could do pink or white or black. It will return the same thing. So here's a silly example that we can go through. Suppose you and your best friend are going to the local shelter and you're looking to adopt a cat, and below are the following options. We have Madonna, who's a black cat, Calasandra, who's a calico, Mr. Toad, who is a gray boy, Beans, who is white, and Snack, who is a big orange fat boy. You go to the shelter with your girlfriend and the two of you are looking at the cats and you have these criteria, whereas your best friend has the criteria on the right. So for you, you're looking for a gray or black or white cat. In comparison, your best friend is looking for a white and orange and a black cat. Take a quick few seconds, look at our different candidates, out which cats would meet your criteria versus your friends. So based on my criteria, the cats that would be eligible for adoption for me would be either Madonna or Beans or Mr. Toad. In comparison with my friend, she's only willing to adopt Little Miss Calasandra. So you can see by using or, you have more options versus and, it really limits what you're returning. So when we're thinking about this with data, if you're using something with or, you're going to be returning a lot of rows because you only have to meet one criteria. You only have to be a black or white or gray cat. In comparison with your best friend who's using and, you're being very, very specific about what you want. It needs to be all three of these things. And if it doesn't meet all three, then it doesn't get to go. Let's look at another example. So suppose we want to combine and with an or in our filter. And this is when things get really tricky. If you're just doing ands, simple. If you're just doing ors, simple. If you do them together, things can get a little messy. So suppose that you're looking for a gray or black or white cat. Or a cat with gray and white and orange. So which cats are you willing to adopt? So this is basically two different statements, right? So we have this first part up here, and these are a list of ors. So you can be gray, black, or white, doesn't matter. Or you can be a cat that is gray and white and orange. So let's look at this. For our first criteria, we have black or gray or white. So who are those? And then for the second one, we have or, orange and white and gray. So let's map these out. Who meets this first criteria? Madonna, Beans, Mr. Toad. And who fills the criteria for this second piece? Calasandra. So in order to combine the two criteria that we had in the previous slide with me and my best friend, you would have to say A or B or C or D. Now D happens to be three different criteria combined. How would we write this in SQL? Okay, so this is a familiar query that we've been working with. And so this is from our TLC Yellow Taxi trip data. And maybe we want to pull where we have the months for January, March, or June, but we only want it for vendor ID 1. So what would this return? This would be our output. And we see that we get months 1, 3, and 6. Okay, that looks good. But then we get vendor ID 2 for months 1 and 3. It kind of looks like that June is the only one that worked correctly. So why is that? Why is it that only this this month is the one that worked out because really what we wanted was to have vendor ID 1 for January, March, and June. The reason why is that how this worked out is that SQL reads it and it says you want 1 or 3, or you want 6 and vendor ID equals 1. So it paired these last two together and then it messes up the whole query. So I have a tip so that you don't ever get this mixed up. The suggestion is if you have a list of ands or a list of ors, you put them together in parentheses. So all of my ors are here. I want 1, 3, or 6, and I want vendor ID equals 1. So this is a good way so that you can make sure that your output comes exactly as you're expecting. So order matters when you're mixing ands and ors. Order does not matter if you're only doing ors or only doing ands. And my tip is to put the parentheses around the ors. That way SQL knows, okay, all of these or conditions, this is one chunk. And we're going to look at this as one item. And then the ands, we're going to look at that as a second list of items. Okay, here's another tip on how you can refactor your code or make it a little bit simpler and easier to read. We can do those same ors that we did before if we just drop in this in condition. So what in says is that I want you to be 1 or 3 or 6. And that's exactly what we wrote the last time, but instead of having the parentheses and all of these ors and potentially mixing things up, you just do a quick little in and whammo blammo, thank you ma'am, you're all done. So in says equal to 1 or 3 or 6, and then this gives us the perfect output that we were expecting. Something to keep in mind with in is that it has to be for the same column. So we're looking at different months. So, okay, fine. I'm able to do 1, 3, or 6. If I wanted to do equals month 1 or passengers equals 6 or blah, 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 in's not going to work for us. In is specifically used when you're looking for multiple different criteria within this same column. Let's review everything we covered in this module. We reviewed a complex CTE and subquery problem. We learned about the complexities of combining and with or in our filters, and then we also learned how to use in with a where statement. See you next time.